in consumer products and bringing online brands offline. And previous to that, I was working in food tech and ag tech for a couple of years.
Awesome. Christy, you're up.
Muted.
Okay.
Hi, can everyone?
Sorry about that.
No worries. Good morning, everybody, and I hope everyone's keeping well given the current situation. I'm Christiane Wherry. I'm the co-founder and COO of Pointilio. We are the eHarmony plus Yelp for financial advisor, where we connect retail investors with the best financial advisor and resources based on their needs. So we're a website that ranks financial advisors, at the same time matches retail investors to advisors based on their profile. And prior to Pointilio, I was building startups. I exited 2. My first one was a private credit fund, and the second one was a digital asset company. I'm happy to be here.
Perfect. Welcome. Thank you. Dennis.
Good morning, everybody. I'm the Vice President, co-founder, and CFO of Choice Corporation. We're in the battery energy storage industry. We have our own products for energy storage that we couple to renewable energy sources or to the grid to facilitate better use of power by our customers, mostly in the mid-market customer base, the commercial, industrial, and institutional type customers. Prior to joining Choice, I was in Austin for 3 years with Redworks. We exited that right at the end of 2015. My background is engineering for 12 years, capital markets for 12 years, and then executive roles in various startups.
Brilliant. Well, welcome, guys. Thank you very much for taking the time to jump on a panel today. So the reason why we wanted to put this panel together is exactly to what Kevin was talking to today, which is how do I kind of shift and change myself to ensure that I can keep myself sustainable and growing and or at least surviving throughout the process that we're going through right now. And what I found that was Kevin brought a lot of great points. And the reason why I thought you guys would be a great panel to have that the audience would love to learn more from was that you've done this before. So not only have you on a new startup now and you're having to shift and adjust to the environment, but you've gone through this in the environments in the past 10 years. So you've kind of gone through the financial crisis, you've gone through a lot of different things. So I think the feedback you guys have will be quite valuable. So I think one of the pieces that I wanted to touch on that Kevin mentioned was in order to not lose clients, there's certain things that you guys can do to support and keep them part of your funnel so that they don't fall off because they choose to cut their costs. And maybe Dennis, you can share a little bit on some of the techniques or tactics that you guys have used in the past to kind of keep your business moving forward as you guys have had to shift over the years. And now, of course, in your new startup, what you guys have done to kind of keep your audience engaged and moving forward.
Yeah, so during this time, we've moved the business management a little bit around how we're doing things. We have a daily call at 9 a.m. with the entire team online on Zoom, and we go through customer by customer, what's happening on each project, what needs to be done. We have a global supply chain, so we're a little bit different than, say, a SaaS company. We have systems coming out of parts, et cetera, coming out of Asia, coming out of North America, going to different customers. We, in fact, have a system that just left on a boat this morning from China to the UK to actually get something shipped in all of this chaos. But the biggest thing is focusing on the customers, going in there day by day and saying, what do they need, what's happening, and staying on top and keeping the customers informed, trying to have daily contact with them.
No, I completely agree that keeping them in the loop, talking to them as much as you can, building a comfort level with them. Adam, you mentioned you've had to make some recent shifts in your business. What are the things that you've done and what you're looking to do going forward?
Adam's muted.
There we go.
Jeffery?
I think when I mute myself, I have to get you to unmute me. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's a difficult time for any business when you're looking at your team structure and being at the kind of pre-rev stage that we're at in the middle of our launch. We did have to restructure some of the teams. We looked at, I guess, the most expendable kind of business unit now that is hard to predict is marketing. Those kind of optional costs are not fixed or hard costs. So we made the difficult decision to unfortunately let go of our CMO and transition her to our advisory board to support us from an advisory capacity rather than a full-time team member. I mean, that's an example on the kind of a big ticket item that was very, very tough during this time. And then there's little things like what Kevin was saying, looking at all of your line items and all of your budgets. A small example for us was, cutting gold foiling from our packaging saves us $10,000 every 30,000 units that we print, and that stacks up for production if you look at the course of the next 6 months. So every single line item, whether it's your team members all the way through to those little kind of hidden gems, I guess, that you can find during times like this to cut back, are really important. For us, we just kind of put everything into the icebox and then are reprioritizing, reevaluating how we're going to be launching now in a very different environment than we had planned to, physical retail being the priority for us now. That's very much changed to online. So all of our digital needs and our online strategy set the old playbook on fire. Basically, it's irrelevant as of 3 weeks ago, and have been rebuilding our entire strategy to launch the business in a very different way.
No, and those are some of the tougher decisions that you have to make as a business. But I think you mentioned a great piece that you were able to find savings just by making a little change in the package. And those little things, they don't take away from the branding experience, but they kind of give you some longevity as you find little ways to save money here and there as you plan for either a shorter run or a longer runway that you're going to be faced with in this market. And because it's so unpredictable, you kind of have to prepare more now for what could come, and plan for the worst, but hope for the best in that case. So that's some great insight there as well. Christy, on your end, how have you guys had to make any shifts and change as you relatively just launched your business over the last few months after testing your MVP and going to market in full swing? What are some of the things that you're looking and have scaled back or increased on because of the demand?
Yeah, thanks. It's a really good question, Jeffrey. And while I certainly empathize with other founders and having to deal with hardships, both from the funding side and also from the customer side, we actually discovered something about our business that was really surprising to us. The core of our business is that we connect retail investors with financial advisors, and during an economic downturn, one would think that financial retail investors would be reluctant to invest, but we found out quite the contrary. It turns out that there's a subset of investors who are particularly risk loving, have a huge risk appetite, who are looking for bargains, are really keen to invest. So as a matter of fact, in the last 3 weeks, our sales pipeline have increased tenfold without any active marketing. We have not increased any efforts, but we now have grown a huge sales pipeline. And our primary concern is, how do we build a business quickly to meet these demands? Because we were pre-launch, we haven't even really built sort of the funnel of the site. We haven't launched the site to really sort of generate the type of leads that our advisors need in order to meet the demand. So that's kind of been what I've been grappling with. It's a good news, it's a blessing and a curse. So how I've readjusted the business, in this case, we've sort of pivoted our efforts, so to speak. We really reshuffled our priorities as a company to try to figure out how we can, instead of launching the business or fundraising, which were our primary objectives over the last month, now we're trying to figure out creative ways, low-cost ways to build the product back up and to meet these demands and to meet, the financial advisors who are willing to pay us. In fact, throwing money at us, saying, please, can you please sell us some more leads? We really need some. So some of the things we've done is, there are some funds that were tracking us. Originally, they were interested in making an equity investment. Some of that discussion has been on hold because, as you know, a lot of funds are looking to keep their powder dry. So we've, come up with creative ways to partner with these funds who are tracking us, in entering these into actual strategic partnerships, where we're trying to get the product to get built back up using our strategic partners' currently excess engineering and marketing capacity, because a lot of companies are actually having a hard time. So there's some excess capacity, like Kevin said earlier, and we're able to leverage that. Perhaps, diluting the company a little bit, but at the same time, we don't need to we're trying to control our cash flow and manage the product that way. So these are just some small things that we're doing. I mean, I suppose they're structural, but we're trying to bottom line is trying to get creative and get the product online so that we can meet the emerging needs in the market.
Well, congratulations. That's a good story. Everybody's happy to hear that you found traction right away and even through the tough times. So that's a great thing. I wanted to, and I like the way that you've made the shift and the changes and trying to adapt. You made a great point about creating priorities. And I think that one of the avenues that, and Kevin mentioned this, is that how do I focus on what's right now? And I know we tagged the whole panel on is if I don't do this tomorrow, I'm going to fail today. And I think this really emphasizes that what is the main priority that your company needs to focus on. And I think the first one, Kevin touched on it, which was figuring out where you can reduce cost. Where are these hidden fees that you're paying for that we kind of just accept over time and don't really dive into this? And one thing that I had done, just as an example, this was back in 2008 when we got hit with the financial crisis. I actually canceled all my credit cards and corporate card and everything. And the reason I did this was because there was just so much stuff going through. I didn't know what half of the stuff was. So I figured if I canceled it, someone would reach out and say, hey, you didn't renew this. It was my fastest way for me to say, why was I paying for this in the first place? So we were able to cut off the bottom line. And as Kevin mentioned, there was a lot of things that you could cut off and other things you could refocus. So maybe Kevin, you want to jump in quickly and just share a little bit about what you're prioritizing in sustaining your business now that you are not in an office anymore, what priorities have changed and what's allowing your team to be motivated to move forward. Oh, 1 second.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And that's a good question because, for us, we're really dependent on people being in places, right? Guest Wi-Fi is all about that. So far things are good. We've actually pivoted to actually do more clinics now. So we run like the Cleveland Clinic. We run about 600 medical clinics across the US. Traffic there is booming. A little bit of a different application, less data capture, more just support, communication, and advertising. So it's like cases like that. So, I mean, in this example, we've obviously cut back on our ad spend on reaching out to agencies and MSPs where their revenue relies on being able to sell to these local businesses. I don't assume, I really hope it's not going to be too long. I think probably 2 to 3 months until things slowly get back to normal. People start going back in the world. But, for us, we're staying the course on that local SMB side. So we're not giving up. We're just scaling back and we're seeing, what sticks. And then we're repurposing those funds to move a level up, to talk more with medical, to talk more with bigger corporate and, larger companies. We recently signed a big deal with a very large auto manufacturer and a very big hardware manufacturer. And those probably, we weren't focusing on that before. And in 3 weeks, we were able to do both of those things. So, I think it's all about trying, see where your product is at. I mean, every product is different. Clearly, we're a software as a service. I'm selling to a certain market. Everyone's different. So talk to your team, take things internal and see, hey, can we scale back on some ads? Will we really see a difference? Canceling the credit card is a great example. Like, will you feel the effect of a canceled service? You'll find out. You can always sign up again. So, that works against us too, because naturally we've had a lot of cancellations on our end. Every reseller says, I'll be back as soon as things get back to normal. And I think that's it. Like, do what you can now to ride the storm, to weather the storm. But don't change course, because next thing you know, you could be all of a sudden, flying 30 degrees right, and then everything's back to where you were supposed to be 3 months ago. So don't do anything too drastic, but really evaluate where you're at, I think, for everyone.
No, that's a great point. And I think there's somewhere tucked in there is going back to the days where we were going to start throwing together a quick 15-day plan, 30-day plans, and figure out, the plan could be something small, but what am I going to do to survive the next 2 weeks? What do I need to change? What do I need to shift? and make it survival mode, at least for the next couple of weeks until you get to a position where things have settled down and you can start to move forward. Dennis, on your end, you mentioned that there's a lot of arms that are being moved in your business where you're having to ship and move products from Asia and everywhere else. How are you guys adjusting, and what are you seeing as being your forward plan to overcome where you're going now?
Yeah, it's kind of multi-pronged, but one of the things we've done on the product side is to try to partner with more companies to take some of the stuff that we were doing, some of the activities we're doing in the product development, and then just find partners to supply some of those components. And we're repurposing our technical staff to sales support effectively, because we're trying to stay focused on the sales and the deliveries. So spend less time on that activity for now anyway. And then try to find new suppliers to work with that we didn't have access to before. The downturn has, because we're relatively small, downturn has opened some doors to us on the supply chain, because they lost other customers, companies that wouldn't talk to us before. So that's been an opening. We've been able to start to talk to them, which was good for us. So we're working through that side in that way. Try to get more and more product from other people that have already got what we need, and then build forward from there. The other thing we've done on product is we've put some R&D focus on the software side, because our product is primarily a device, and that's our product move forward during this transition here, is to add more software components to it, and ultimately building to a SaaS model. So that was on our roadmap, but we've effectively accelerated that roadmap at this point, because we just figure it's a good time to go forward, because there's not a lot of things for our tech team to be doing besides that. And then we have the product side. Our business model was to be what we called customizable off the shelf. So we have our own basic designs right down to the core components. Now we're looking at creating more sort of standard products that can be adapted with options to the individual customers, because the market is only about 2 years old. So we're learning what the market really needs, and then we're taking some of that learning and now applying it. So we're cutting down the range of things we're offering to customers and trying to come up with standardized packages that they can say yes to quickly. We have seen a huge funnel. Our product does have great economic benefit for the energy storage has great economic benefit for almost any business. So there's been a tremendous boost in our sales funnel. At least the interest level is very high. So we're trying to move that forward as well. Just if I could throw in something that Jeffrey, just to monopolize the microphone a little bit. So in 2009, I had a company called Digital Fairway. We went bankrupt in 2009. And I thought maybe I'd share some of those lessons here that I learned from there that we're using in this downturn in Troyes now, because they were very valuable lessons.
For sure, yes.
The first single lesson that is going to be important to every single leader on here is to stay healthy. Do not put yourself at risk of this virus. So what happened in 2009, people forget this, there was a swine flu epidemic. I got the swine flu. I was quarantined for over 30 days, right when I was trying to rescue the company. And it was impossible to do, because I needed to get around to see investors, and it's very hard to do when you're quarantined. So stay healthy. Do not put yourself at any risk. Wear masks, wear gloves. If you saw me going out on the weekend, you would have seen me at the grocery store, totally covered. Don't take any chance. Don't assume anything. Number two, so what happened in 2009? In 2008, our customers were banks. It was software for large networks, private networks. The banks cut off all the orders, just as we're seeing now in the financial crisis. We were repositioning the company to sell to small carriers, because they have similar needs, but just couldn't make the transition, or simply ran out of cash in that. So it's all, it's just stay healthy. Number two, the other thing I didn't do in 2009, which I thought about after, was if things are going bad, think about the assets of the company and how you can position to relaunch if you do go under. So when we went under, we didn't really have a plan to say, hey, we built all this, but if we could get another group that may come in here and buy the assets and then sort of relaunch the whole thing again in a better time. I would think about that as something in the back of your mind to say, okay, what happens if worst case happens? How do you preserve the assets and try to get something out of them down the road? I talked about customers, and the final thing is your board. If you've got advisory boards, if you've got board of directors, reach out to them and make sure they know all the time what's going on, because if you've got a good board, they'll have great advice for you.
Those are valuable. Thank you very much. That's great, Dennis. And I think actually you made a great point that I want to touch on, and that was obviously the number one of anything we do is stay healthy. Implore everybody to make sure that's number one, because doesn't matter if your business is suffering, if you're sick and you're not able to help your team and help people move forward. But the one that I really wanted to touch on was on the board side and your investors and anybody on the mentorship side, coaching side. I think that this is quite valuable. And I think it's not just so much on the investor or the board side, but it's reaching out to other founders, other people to keep engaged with, because you made a great point, which is there's people there that want to help. And I think we kind of forget that. And over the last couple of weeks, I've had numerous conversations and I found that a lot of founders seem to be holding back and almost suffering in a way that they don't know what to do because they've never been faced with this. And they're kind of suffering in silence, if you will. So I think that that's something to really put a focus on. And I know Adam's pretty close with the group of people that he works with. And maybe, Adam, you want to provide some insights on some of the things that you've been doing on the team side that's been keeping everybody updated in what's going forward in the business and keeping everybody aloof of how things are running.
Yeah, I mean, so in the natural products industry and CPG in general, there's a pretty strong community, and there's a lot of industry support coming out right now. And then in our situation, we do have very active hands-on investors, and I've taken the position to be over-communicative, way more than I normally would be. So whereas we might just do quarterly updates to the broader investment community or my own cap table, I'm essentially doing a weekly or bi-weekly update right now with live real-time updates. I know that there's a lot of curious minds, and there's also a lot of emotional investment in Scout as a brand. So we've just taken the position to, over communicate on the small details, keeping everybody looped in. And with those bi-weekly updates going out, it's also resulting in some great opportunities that are opening up, things that our board, our investors are thinking about where they can be helpful based on the updates they're providing. And there's also some really tough, business decisions that I'm making in real time pretty fast, and being able to lean on them during these times for that support is what they're there for. So, running those big ticket decisions like the CMO situation I was referring to earlier, by our investors, getting that feedback from their previous experience and then making a decision with their support. A lot of the founders that I'm talking to as well are taking that same approach, definitely being over communicative to their existing investors. But it's also a time where you can, open up and be showing what you're doing as a founder and making good decisions during these times to prospective investors that you're looking to build a relationship with. So, if you're making some big decisions, to show you're being mindful of your burn, maintaining good cash flow, where you're cutting back, the new decisions that you're making, that demonstrates your skills as a founder navigating this really challenging time to people that you might be trying to fundraise from. And it's actually a good opportunity to be reaching out to some of those prospective investors.
No, that's a great point. And I think you touched on a quick point of sharing information, but also when you're in preparing for the next raise. And one of the questions that did come up on here as well is you're supporting the people that have invested in you, you're getting their feedback, but now you're going to have to look at, do I need to make another raise and or go for funding? And how should I go about that? How should I approach that? And keeping people in communication and as much information is going to be helpful in that aspect. But also it keeps your team more interested and more excited that you're sharing the nuances, you're sharing the details and keeping people tied in. Christy, on your end, you've done this a few times, and now you've changed a little bit of a difference. You're going after funding this time after a couple of startups that you've built and grown. How do you see this approach going forward? Have you guys put that on hold and you're just trying to get market placement and you're going to grow the business, or are you going to tackle again going out for investment?
Yeah, and I think, after this current initial period of mad dash of getting sort of just making sure that our paid customers are happy and will stay with us. Yes, absolutely. I think, we position ourselves, my co-founder and I, as wartime leaders. This is the time that we show the funds who are tracking us how we can quickly respond to market changes. So like you said, some of the previous panel, my fellow panelists have covered, over communicate and making sure that everyone's in the loop, because we want to demonstrate that that we are well positioned, that my team and I have the capability to respond and handle this. In my previous startup, one of my approach was to always look for strategic investors, like always create use cases before we take an investment. So that was sort of the previous approach, and we did that globally. Given the current changes, our footprint will have to be drastically reduced, and that's another sort of strategic decision that we have to make as a team, and that also restricts sort of who can put money into our company. So our prospective investor list is also sort of got reshuffled. But yes, the sentiment is the same, in that I think these are prime times to demonstrate that your team and your product are able to sort of be the foam that rises to the top, the cream that rises to the top. And we're keenly aware of what we're doing that's being tracked and that reflects our company and our brand. So that's definitely a focus and a priority this time around. I'm a little bit too young to remember what happened in 2008 when the last market sort of downturn hit. So I vaguely remember it as I was a new grad, and it changed sort of my perspective on how, it changed my career trajectory on whether or not I want to work in the financial industry. But this time around, I think we're definitely better. We have an understanding, millennials and myself and folks sort of coming after me, Zoomers, their investment profiles are going to be changed again. And I'm capitalizing again on that sort of changed consumer sentiment and really understanding our customers better, these retail investors who are now faced with a really different market condition than, say, 10 years ago. So, all this is to say that this is a really interesting time, and we take the learnings and we're really keen and excited to show that our team is the right team to tackle this problem right now.
Oh, that's brilliant. And you mentioned you've always put, which I like about this, is that you put a couple of very good positive pieces inside of this. I know the world feels like everything is in this doom and gloom, but maybe one thing that you could provide is outside of everybody looking at planning and cost cutting and reaching out and doing, trying to find different types of partnerships. All of these things are obviously going to build and grow and help you sustain your business. But can you give us one of the more positive outlooking pieces that you're doing now that are going to help in the future? Something that everybody else can say, yeah, you know what, I got to get behind this type of idea. I know I'm throwing you on the spot. It's a bit of a different ask, but what's that one positive thing that you see coming up that you're excited to keep pushing forward on?
Well, I'm excited to understand a little bit better that there are certain demographics in my sort of, there's certain demographics of customers that we're able to tackle that are actually going to stay with us, that we can win them and keep them forever, because they're very unique investors who have this risk appetite, and they're looking for bargains, and they're looking for, at this particular moment, to make a killing. And those are the people that we want to keep on our side and be their trusted advisor. So I think we're demonstrating a really good track record, and we built that relationship. In fact, like I said, my sales pipeline has grown 10x, and I'm hoping to keep these people forever. So yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, being a wartime leader really means that we also have to find the right allies. And in this case, our allies are, we see our customers as allies, and we want to grow with them. And if it helps, then we turn them into investors. That's kind of what, I help them make money, and they help put that money back into business for me. So I'm very positive on that front.
I like it. And I like the wartime leader. We certainly all have to be that. And that's perfect. I truly do agree with that. Kevin, how about yourself?
For us, it's all about staying the course, but also understanding that everyone's changing the way that they behave. So I think outside of business, this whole COVID pandemic is actually a good thing for humanity. It's going to sound crazy for me to say this, but everyone has a chance to slow down. Everyone has a chance to remember what's important in life. You know, it's not a business, it's your family, it's your friends, it's right. So it's almost like, I don't think the world's ever going to be the same, truly the same. The days of going to a trade show is shaking 1,000 hands in one day. I mean, there's a health side of things, and there's actually, so all that being said, I think the biggest thing that I could take away is that the world has changed permanently, I think. Number one, I think if you can take a positive out of it, it's the fact that everyone has a sense of being, sense of community has definitely increased, and people are changing the way that they're doing things. So everyone's working remotely. Everyone's forced to learn how to work remotely now. So are people going to go back to offices later? I think a lot of these considerations, I think we're not changing too much of what we did. Again, like, we're not going to change our course, but we're adapting, and we're always, keeping our eyes open for new ways to apply what we do.
Dennis, how about yourself?
For us, it's really just to keep the focus on the customers and keep working towards coming out of this the other side of it with our team intact and our energy and our focus, and just keep it's almost a day-by-day exercise. You can't sit here today and say that in a month it's going to be this, or in 2 months it's going to be that. You have to have those daily meetings and then adapt. What's the motto of the U.S. Marines? I think it's improvise and overcome, something like that. We kind of have to be that kind of mode, day by day, hour by hour.
Agreed. Adam, how about yourself?
Yeah, kind of, what Kevin's saying is echoing with me too. I think this is a time for hopeless optimists. I think that we all need a lot of optimism right now. And looking at the silver lining, there's a lot of negative news out there. And if we're drowning that every day, it's going to keep that, gray cloud over our heads. I think right now there is a silver lining at the other side of this. People reconnecting with friends and family, maybe even rethinking like how you're growing your business, and slowing down a little bit allows you to focus on some other things internally, when you might be always, thinking about revenue and sales growth and all the big picture items, and, returns for your investors. But this is a time to kind of reorganize and reconnect. So I think, for us, it's about staying excited about the new opportunities. Yes, it sucks that Expo West gets canceled and we can't go to this trade show, we can't do this panel, or, the round didn't work out the way that we had expected to with all the market changes. But there are a lot of new and exciting opportunities that are being generated because of this. And I think with healthy thinking, healthily in an opportunistic way, about how we can, help each other out during this time, and just try to have fun with it, because there's still great business to be done, and there's still a lot of opportunity out there. Keeping the team motivated, the stakeholders motivated around that, celebrating the opportunities that are coming through, so that people feeling optimistic while they're working. It's important.
Oh, that's great. And I completely agree with that. Optimism is the key to survival. It is looking forward, knowing that you're going to go somewhere, that this isn't doom or gloom, that we're all going to survive this, and we're all going to do this together. So I think I want to kind of summarize a little bit of all this, but maybe I guess just because we're at the time now, and I want to thank you guys all for joining us today. Adam, Christy, Dennis, and Kevin, you guys were fantastic. I know that I was writing like crazy, so you guys had the wheels running here. So thank you very much for that. You guys did a fantastic job, and I believe the audience would also appreciate that and agree. There's still a few other questions that we'll jump into, but I think we'll get those maybe on the next one. But I do want to thank you guys once again for all of your time. And just to kind of give a quick synopsis for everything here, I want to say is that from the points that were brought up is, number one, stay healthy, be around and keep everybody positive, build an outlook for where you want to be. Where do you want to be in a year from now? You're going to go through tough times, but you still got to get somewhere. So I think a lot of planning and strategy is going to be very helpful, even if it's just something small and brief that you want to be able to position yourself. Maybe the goal of doing 2 million revenue this year might not be hit, but doing 500,000 is going to be your target. Then put that target in and make the target small enough that it's achievable. Adapt. I think the key thing here is you got to adapt. It's figuring out, as you mentioned, Adam, that you couldn't go to this upcoming event. Well, what's the other upcoming things that you can join? What panels can you get on? What things can you talk about? Where can you learn something new? Where can you focus with your team to keep growing forward? So adapt your business, adapt your model, reach out and talk to people that are going to help. Look for those people that are going to support your business and support what you're doing. Keep creating value. And if that's outsourcing of product development or that's insourcing, look at different ways that are going to benefit your business while managing your cost. I think a lot of comments came around, initially the first thing you're going to do is reposition your cost side of things. Well, once you've done that, then figure out what do I got the capability of building forward? What things can I tie into my business? How do I pivot and make sure that the pivot is going to allow me to survive and grow? And I think the last one that I outside of all the great things, improvise and overcome, I thought was amazing. Optimism and stay positive. And I think the other big one that Christy mentioned, and I think it's bang on, is you're a wartime leader right now. So figure out all of the little pieces that are going to help you guys move forward and survive in the next 3 months, and figure out how it's going to work in 6 months. Stay positive, stay healthy, and forge forward and bring the right people to the table when you need to, and find ways to benefit your customers so you don't lose them, and do what it takes to survive. So once again, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. And if you're interested in investing or being part of a panel, or you want to pitch, please feel free to send a message or email. I've posted my email right now on the chat. So if you guys want to reach out, feel free to do that. And looking forward to learning more and continuing this. And next week, we're going to have a new panel, which is going to be Ask an Angel. And we're going to be spending the hour just answering questions from everybody and that joins, to learn more about are we investing, what type of things are we investing in. So join me. I think it'll be a great chat, and looking forward to seeing everybody next week at 10 a.m. So thanks again, everybody, for your time, and have a fantastic day. And you can also look online at opn.ninja or YouTube for last week's show. It's been edited and put online, so we will you'll be able to review that. So outside that, thank you again, and have a fantastic week, guys.